Hi y'all, Crystal here from Crystal Design. Today we are making this short sleeve cardigan in lightweight yarn. I'm using WeCrochet's Brava Recycle in the shade Lily Flower. This is a number 3 DK weight yarn and a 5mm crochet hook. Extra small fits size 30-inch bust, small 34-inch, medium 38-inch, large 42, extra large 46, 2x 50, 3x 54, 4x 58, and 5x 62. For extra small, you'll need about 900 yards of number 3 DK weight yarn, small 1,000 yards, medium 1,100 yards, large 1,300 yards, extra large 1,500 yards, 2x 1,700 yards, 3x 1,900 yards, 4x 2,100 yards, and 5x 2,300 yards of number 3 yarn. Gauge for this pattern is after blocking. In 2 inches you'll get 7 double crochets by 4 rows in pattern. Okay, let's get started with a slip knot on our hook. Now for row 1 we're going to start with foundation double crochet. So we'll chain 2, yarn over and insert my hook into the first chain I made. Yarn over and pull a loop through. Keep holding on to that spot. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 1 foundation double crochet made. So we'll yarn over and insert into the bottom. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2 times. Keep holding on to this bottom spot as you repeat the foundation double crochets across. If you're checking gauge, work until you have 14 foundation double crochets and then continue following the pattern. For extra small, foundation double crochet 35, small 38, medium 41, large 44, extra large 47, 2x 50, 3x 56, 4x 59, and 5x 62. Okay, so once you have the right number of double crochets, foundation double crochets for your first row, it's time to turn. And for 2 more rows, we are just going to make double crochets. So we'll start with our standing stitch here. You can also start with a chain 3 if you prefer. It will count as your first double crochet. And then just double crochet in each stitch across for 2 rows. So you'll have 3 rows of double crochet before we start our row 4. Now we're starting our 3rd row of double crochets. Okay, once you have 3 rows of double crochets, then you're ready for our row 4. So here we're going to do a chain 4, which will count as a double crochet plus a chain 1, and you can still do the standing stitch as the first double crochet or chain 3 and then chain 1. Then we're going to start in the next stitch and do a double crochet 3 together. So yarn over, insert my hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert my hook into the 3rd stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through all loops on my hook. Then we'll chain 2
and do a double crochet 3 together, starting in the very next stitch. Chain 2. Keep repeating this across until we have just 1 stitch left. Okay, when you have 1 stitch left, instead of doing a chain 2 after the last double crochet 3 together that you can make, we're just going to do 1 chain 1 and then double crochet in our last stitch or top of the 3rd chain if you start your rows with a chain 3. Turn, and for row 5, 6, and 7, we are going to double crochet across. We'll start with our standing stitch or chain 3, double crochet into this chain space here, double crochet into the top of the double crochet 3 together, and then we have 2 chains and a double crochet 3 together, so we'll do 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet. Continue repeating that across. Okay, after you have 3 rows of double crochets, then it's time to repeat row 4 here with the double crochet 3 together and the 3 rows of double crochets. So this will be your repeat section. Keep repeating rows 4, 5, 6, and 7 until you have reached the length for your size.
For extra small, work until you have 44 inches, small 46, medium 48, large 50, extra large 52, 2x 54, 3x 56, 4x 58, and 5x 60 inches long. Remember, you're going to make 2 panels. When you fold them in half, that will be the finished length. So you can drape one over your shoulder to check the length and decide if you need to keep going. If you add more length, be sure to stop after 3 rows of double crochets. Okay, once you have made both panels, it's time to assemble them. We are going to seam the back, but make sure they're both facing the same way. So on the bottom, you can see where your row 1 is. Your slip knot will be on one side. And so on the second panel, you're going to make sure that your slip knot is on the same side as well. And that will help you line up and make sure they're on the same, both facing the same way. So the panels are made to be folded over the shoulder. So one side, the stitch pattern will be upside down versus right side up. So if you have a preference, you can orient yours that way. Now I chose a visible decorative seam for the back, so I'm going to work on the right side of the work. And if you do not want your seam to stand out like mine does in the picture, if you want it to lay a little more flat like the side seams, then you want to work on the wrong side. So we have laid out our panels side by side here with the wrong side facing down and the right side facing up, unless, like I said, you're doing it the other way. The stitch markers, we're going to start sewing the back together down to the hem. And I have given you inches, but then you want to count how many rows that is and count the rows on the other side so that they match since yarn stretches. So for extra small, you're going to seam up the back for 20 inches, small 21, medium 22, large 23, extra large 24, 2x 25, 3x 26, 4x 27, and 5x 28 inches. So again, I put my stitch marker here to show how far to join them up from the bottom. And so these loose parts of the panels here are going to fold over my shoulders and be the front, the open front of my cardigan. Please note that this isn't exactly half the length that we crocheted. It's a couple inches less than half. So if you added length, then maybe seam up the back for half and then take off 2 inches. So if half is 28 inches, only seam up 26, for instance. Okay, we're going to use our crochet hook to seam the back. So I'm adding a slip knot to my crochet hook now. And we're going to start at the top where we marked our panels and insert my hook under the stitch from one panel. Let me remove my stitch marker here now. So I'll insert my hook into the side of the stitch. So I generally try to go under 2 loops here and then across on the matching stitch or row, matching edge there. Yarn over and pull that through and pull that through the loop on your hook to slip stitch join. Now you might have to pull that loop up a little bit looser and then insert your hook into the next space. Yarn over, pull through both layers of fabric and through the loop on your hook. So you're going to continue slip stitching through the sides here all the way down to the bottom. And every so often you want to stop and make sure that your rows are matched up, that you have double crochet rows matched up with the correct double crochet row, and that your cluster stitch rows are matched up with those as well. Just like adding a border around your crochet, you want to find the spots that you're going to insert your hook and do it consistently for the best finish. Okay, there we go, all seamed up on our back. Now we can fold over our front panels and seam the sides. For the sides, we're using a traditional mattress stitch, so we want to work on the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, I'm just going to turn my cardigan here and get set up for sewing. We'll seam the sides from the bottom up and then leave an opening for the armhole. For extra small, leave 6.5 inches, 7 for small, 7.5 medium, 8 large, 8.5 extra large, 9 2x, 9.5 3x, 10 4x, and 10.5 5x. So I'll cut a length of matching yarn, usually twice the length that I want to sew is what I recommend. And then I'll thread that into my yarn needle. And I'm just going to start from the bottom. I'll match up my corners and then I'll match up row for row and sew up the sides using the mattress stitch as I go. To sew up the sides, I'm going to insert into the bottom stitch here first, and I'm going to make sure to go through both layers of fabric. Just pulling this through, I'm going to leave about 6 inches. Going up and over and across, back to, through the same stitch I started in. And then I'll weave in that tail at the end. Now I'm going to work my way up, just like we did the slip stitch the seam. I'm going into the side of the stitches, matching up row for row, and pull that all the way through, and then come back from the other side. And just continue working my way, sewing all the way up until my armhole stop point. And just like we did for the back, we'll frequently stop and check and make sure that our rows are lined up here on the side seam as well. And on the last stitch, I'm going to do an up and over back into the same spot locking stitch before cutting my yarn and leaving at least a 6-inch tail to weave in. And then you'll seam the other side in the same way. After both sides are seamed, it's time to turn your cardigan right side out so that we can join and work on our sleeves. We'll join yarn to the underside of the armhole with a slip stitch. Then we're going to chain 1 and single crochet in that same spot. And we'll continue to place single crochets evenly around the armhole. Just like seaming the back, we just want to place them evenly spaced so they're not stretching or pulling or too many close together. And you want to find where you're going to insert it in the side of the rows each time and keep repeating that for the most consistent look. Now, if you're putting too many stitches, you'll know because it'll start to get wavy or curly, like a ruffle. And if you're putting too few stitches, then you're going to have it pull and tighten and curve in. Usually, since we're working on the sides of double crochet rows, you can work 2 single crochet stitches into the side of each of those double crochet rows. And you might just have to skip one every so often to make up the difference. When we get all the way back around to the first single crochet we made, we'll join that with a slip stitch and then begin round 2 with the chain 1, single crochet back into that same stitch, and then single crochet in each stitch around. Keep repeating round 2 until you have 10 rounds or your sleeve's about 2 1/4 inches long. Okay, so once our sleeve is to length, we're just going to slip stitch over 2 stitches to kind of smooth out that join. And then it's time to pull up a long loop, cut your yarn, and weave in your ends. And we're going to repeat that on the second sleeve. Okay, now it's time for the edging. We're going to work the bottom hem and the lapel all together in rounds. So we want to position the cardigan so that it's in front of you, but upside down. So you'll work to the left in the round, all around the bottom hem, then come up the right front panel, around the back of the neck, and down the left front panel, joining again at the bottom corner of the left front panel, and continue to repeat. Then you'll join yarn with a slip stitch to the bottom left panel from you, so on your left side. And just like we did for the arms, we're going to chain 1, single crochet in that same spot, and then single crochet evenly around. Now on the bottom hem here, we are working into the bottom of the stitches, so it's just a stitch for stitch. And as we come back up on the inside for the lapels, it will be into the side of the rows again. So we'll do it in the same way we have been doing. Now here I'm at the side seam and there's not really much to do differently. Just be aware of it. You don't want to accidentally put a stitch into your sewing loops that you use to sew it together. Just go into the stitch before and the stitch after. Okay, here we are ready to turn up the corner inside the lapel. And so like any corner in crochet, we are going to put a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, all in the same stitch there to help us turn the corner. So there's my last stitch on the bottom hem. And now to go up the inside, we're just going to work our single crochets evenly into the sides of the double crochet rows, like we have been for the back seam and how we did for the armholes. Okay, I'm zoomed in here a little bit for you. We have our last single crochet on the bottom hem and we're ready to turn the corner. It's my tail there. I'm going to work over, chain 1, then I'm going to single crochet back into that same spot. And that's my corner stitch, and that's how you'll treat each corner down here, this one and the first one where we started when we get back around. Now we're just working single crochets evenly into the side of the double crochet rows. I'm working over my yarn tail here. Just keep going like we have been. Try to find those spots that you're going to continue to place your single crochets along each row so you can have it consistently. And I'll just stop occasionally and check to make sure it's not pulling in or too roughly, just like we talked about for the armholes. Okay, I've single crocheted all the way across this one side, and now I'm at the top of the back of the neck, so I'm going to show you that. There's my tail from my back panel seaming. Sorry, I did not get this very clear. The camera went out of focus here with it so zoomed in. But I'm placing a single crochet right before the seam and right after, just like we talked about for the side seams. You want to not go into the seam itself. Just make sure they're joined before and after, and working over my tail there to make sure it doesn't come loose. We'll weave that one in securely at the end. So you just keep going around here. We don't have to do anything else. We're just going to continue single crocheting down the sides, placing them evenly there. Slip stitch to the first stitch we made, and we're ready to turn the corner. Here I'm using like a standing single crochet where I pull up a longer loop instead of doing a chain one. That's optional and up to you. You can do the chain one and then single crochet in the same spot as usual. So round two, and each round is the same as the first round, just single crochet around, except we're working into the stitches, so it's even easier. Just keep repeating this one round until you have 5 rounds total, or about 2-inch wide hem. Next up, I'll show you the belt and tie options for styling this cardigan. I'll show you how to do a belt if you would like. We'll start with the slip knot on our hook, and then we're going to chain 7. Now we'll single crochet in the second chain from your hook and in each stitch across. You can adjust the width of your belt as you like. Just note that one chain will be for a turning chain. Okay, and turn your work for row 2. We'll start with the chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch, and in each stitch across. And that will be your 1 row repeat for this simple single crochet belt. Keep repeating that until your desired length is reached. Then you'll cut the yarn and weave in your ends. You can tie the belt around or thread it through the spaces that we made with the double crochet 3 together to use like belt loops. Okay, so quickly I will show you how you can use this belt on your short sleeve cardigan. So just find the set of double crochet 3 together cluster holes that's close to your natural waist or where you'd like your belt to sit. And you just thread it through like a belt loop. Obviously I haven't weaved in my end here yet, but I just want to show you quickly how that works. And wrap it around the back. And then make sure to fit it into the matching one on the other side. There we go, and then you can tie it in the front to secure it. Another option for those who don't want a thick belt is to do a thin tie. And I'm using a foundation single crochet to do that. So I'll just start with 2 chains, then foundation single crochet in the first chain, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Keep holding onto that bottom spot there. That's where you're going to insert your hook, and keep repeating the steps for your foundation single crochet. That's 2. So you can keep repeating that for the length that you like. For the one pictured, I have made a tie that's about 2 feet long, 24 inches. And that was enough just to cinch it together in the front and tie it. Okay, once your tie is long enough, just pull up your long loop, cut your yarn. You can weave those ends down into the little tie. And then I'll show you quickly how you can bunch together the front to give it a cinched look and use your tie to secure it. So I'm just going into our spaces we made, and you can go as far back as you want or as close to create more cinch, a tighter fit, or a looser fit. And then you go into the matching hole on the other side, and you can tie it in a bow or just a little knot and let it dangle there. Okay, that's just 2 options. Of course, this cardigan looks lovely, open and loose as a nice layer for the warmer months.